combination of the three. Now, the good news for us this morning is we're going to mix this up a little bit, and I will ask different questions of different panelists, if I may, but we're going to turn most of the time available to us over to you, the audience, because we want you to have an opportunity to ask our panelists to give you the benefit of their experiences here in the industry. So, transformation. Matthew, I'm putting you in the hot seat first.
Thanks.
Tell me about your transformation experiences and the biggest lesson learned out of that experience. Arguably, that would be also one of the better opportunities. But what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned out of transformation?
Okay. So what I've typically seen is there's an opportunity to transform platforms. There's budgets involved. There's fairly major, significant projects, mainly around billing platforms, and there's expectations that are very high. As you go through the implementation, it often takes longer than we expect. It costs a lot more money than we expect. And then we don't necessarily get the outcomes that we expect.
Right.
And the outcomes...
Takes too long, costs too much, delivers too little.
Yeah, and sometimes they even go over budget and they even get dropped, which is the worst possible scenario. So I suppose what's the lessons? I sort of look at the operators. I think there are a lot to be at fault because they run and operate their environments the same way that got them into trouble in the first place. So nothing has fundamentally changed. The operator's thinking the same way. They're operating the same way. They've got some new tools. They've got some new platforms, but they're not leveraging the capabilities of those new tools and new platforms. Often when they go through the migration process itself, they migrate the existing stuff that they have as well, rather than transforming their product catalog, rather than transforming their thinking, their product development life cycle. It's an end-to-end organizational transformation. It's not about systems. And if you do both, and you do both together, and unfortunately that usually means a change of management within the operator, because they need to think differently. You need to transform the organization as well. I think then you're going to get a chance of success.
Well said, very well said. It's not just about the systems. Arguably, the systems are the easy part.
True, and I'll go into it a little bit later, but I also think the vendors need to step up as well, because the vendors come in, they want to sell a product.
Sure.
They want to sell consultancy services. They want to sell process reengineering activity. But where are the commercial models based on outcomes? Why don't we have commercial models with transformation projects around, I want an outcome of billing accuracy. I want an outcome of data transformation. I want an outcome of billing timeliness, and they're measured on the outcome.
And compensated accordingly?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Bernd, you ready to sign up for that?
Yes, under certain conditions.
See the small print?
No, joking apart, in fact, this is one of our offerings. But if we tie our compensation to achieving business targets, then of course we need to be involved also in the business side of the transformation story.
Absolutely.
So we have to be able to control the entire process. As soon as we are, yes, we do step up to the challenge and to our own claim. And yeah.
Okay.
And that is, in fact, that can be even more profitable because it's for sure easier to communicate to the business because you show your benefit. And then it's also much easier to get people to compensate you well on that because they see the benefit. So this is an all-win strategy, in fact.
And it's an interesting model, I think, depending on the region as well. You know, I've worked in different regions. Clearly, I'm working in the Middle East right now. And I think there's a big opportunity for vendors to come in and take that upper ground and make commitments on outcomes because they don't necessarily know what they don't know. Yeah?
Fair enough.
And they need the leadership. And if vendors can take that lead but take accountability with results, I think that's a very successful business model in the Middle East.
Yeah, and indeed, when I talk to colleagues frequently in this traditional model, they basically sit by and wait for the operators to give them the requirements. And then I keep telling them,
That's not transformation, that's more of the same.
We are the experts on those issues.
That's right.
So this is our job, and the operator should put us on the spot to tell them what is best practice in the industry.
That's arguably why we bring integrators to the table, correct?
That's a core competence of a system integrator and also a willing product vendor. And if every operator starts to do their own requirements and develop their own systems, then they can as well get into the business of doing products for a living. But
That's right.
they choose not to, so there must be a reason for it.
So Justin, based on what you've just heard, do you see a change coming in the way we fund and structure transformation endeavors? I mean, we've all seen the boil the ocean, colossal, faceplant that the industry has done. Where are we doing? What are we doing now?
What are we doing now? What's going on differently? I'd love to think that operators all sign up and do these sort of business-based outcome deals, but what tends to happen, to be honest, that I've seen is that for the very, very high-risk, brand-new stuff, they might give it a go, but for the core stuff, absolutely not. If you go to a CFO at a do, I'm quite sure and said, look, here's a great deal. We know these are the outcomes. He won't know what it's going to cost him, and I would struggle to believe that he would sign up to that.
Why? Too risky?
It is a risk. And don't forget, where you are as an operator, indeed any large business, you want to have certainty in outcomes, and in terms of cost particularly, where you're going to end up. What I will say, and certainly one of the points I pick up, is that regionally, these transformation projects are viewed very, very differently. Transformation, if you look at a sort of developed Western world, look at a European or indeed a UK operator, their view on how they're going to transform their systems tends to be a far more, considered, shall we say, view than if you go out and speak to people out, let's say, out of Malaysia or the Far East or something like this, who are far more aggressive in terms of their outcomes. They'll go in and do wholesale changes. I mean, this is partly how you view your customers, I guess, and how fast those markets are growing and all those sort of things are associated with them. But there are very different attitudes to transformation projects which take place depending on where you are in the world. And what it means is that those more aggressive outfits tend to be, ultimately, I think the outcomes are probably better, even though some of their subscribers go through a certain amount of pain in that process. I think you'll find, it's just an observation more than anything else, but I think you'll find that those systems will be far better for them in the longer term. But from a developed market, North America or Western Europe, we would be, if you're doing it and you did it slightly wrong, I was dealing with one operator who's saying, well, we've only got about 4% error in the bills, and you're going, that's quite a lot of people, That'd be a harsh swap over. You throw the switch and 4% if your subs go, well, actually, thank you very much, you got it wrong. But that's a sort of thing which is acceptable out there, but really in a UK or North American market, you'd be in deep, deep trouble.
Kathy, do you agree?
Oh, I agree totally. And, I think one of the things that I think is too many times historically, transformationally, we basically just look to replace the system, right, with something that's more current, but not necessarily thought in a transformational way, right, in terms of how we wanted the business to look at some point in the future. And I have to say, I agree totally with Matthew on many things, but the other thing I think is you can't just change out the leadership. You have to change the attitudes of the people who are doing the job every day, because they're the ones that will force it back to the way you've always done things. They're the ones that will give you the requirements. I'm working on a project now with my own team. The only reason we can't, we're doing things differently is because I will not permit any customization without me signing off on it. Otherwise, they'd have every report replicated that they had before.
Right.
They'd have, and it's and I keep saying, go find it somewhere else in the system, right? They're giving you something, go find it somewhere else in the system. So it's not just a leadership, although you need leadership to be very strong when you try to do a transformational project, and you need to create a transformational vision that goes way beyond where you are today. If you don't do that, I think you run a lot of risk of ending up where you were with just a new system.
So far what I've heard is we need adult supervision, right? We need
mindset.
a view of where we want to go. I mean, these sound very easy, but we all know from years and years of experience, this is tough stuff. So adult supervision, a view of where we want to go, vendors who are willing to invest some of their compensation in, as the term often is said, put some skin in the game, right? And a view that says, this is not about swapping out systems. That's the easy part. This is about changing how we do business. Now, what do you all think? What are the other things that are going to give us the best opportunities out of transformation? Alice.
This may not make me popular, but I think you need to blow up the IT development process. Because
Blow up IT, the software development process?
The software development process, because I've seen many, many transformational projects where IT approaches it as a replication project. And they come in as an order taker to say, okay, business, tell me everything you want the system to do. Instead of saying, here's the software we purchased, here's the functionality that you have. Show me your level 4 business process flows that are going to accommodate that. And to Kathy's point, show me exactly what you're not going to be able to do that is urgent if we don't change the software.
Ooh, I love that. The idea that what are we not going to do in the
Right.
future? That's a hard question to answer.
It is a hard question. It's much more difficult than to say, give me your high-level business requirements, I'll translate them into IT technical requirements, we'll deliver phase 1 on December 31st of this year, we'll deliver phase 2 on June 1st, and you didn't ask for anything transformational. And it's a little bit harder to do with an internal IT development shop, but with any vendor that's bringing a cloud solution or any type of transformational software, I think that's absolutely what needs to happen, is it can't be business as usual, taking the order of what you want the system to do.
Go ahead, Brent.
May I comment on that? In fact, in the past, I've seen a number of projects done by a multitude of system integrators where, of course, this attitude of taking orders and implementing requirements is the ultimate cash cow for any system integrator. So there is
He speaks the truth.
There is nothing better than an IT department that has exactly that attitude. That is why it is so important that you tie the compensation of the integrator not to the numbers they put in, but to achieving business outcomes, because then this immediately stops. Then the aim of the integrator becomes completely adverse to supporting this approach, and then the integrator will actively coach the internal IT department not to do this. And if you think that to the end, and you compensate also the internal IT department on achieving the business outcome, then they will change their attitude as well, because of course for them always more change is better because it preserves the jobs, right? And that is what you have to change, and that is a clear management decision that nobody else can make.
It's interesting. I haven't, like to the point I made earlier, it's about outcome-based results. Yeah. And I've yet to see or come across a project that is driven that way from day one. And I think the challenge is, what are the key measures? What are those outcomes? How do you make it real? How do you make it tangible that you can measure it up front and at the end? So coming back to, you know what your exposure is. So what are those key measures? You know what your exposure is, and you've got all of the right drivers to get the right behaviors. And I'd love to see a commercial model that looks like that, because I think it's something that really needs to evolve and develop. And if the industry can go this way, it would be brilliant.
What about tying the operator executives, all of the executives across all the functional departments or silos? What about tying their compensation to the outcome? Who here has worked in that kind of an environment? Nobody who's willing to admit it. Oh no. This gentleman right here. Give us a commentary on that.
It's funny you say this. I'm actually leading it is a transformational program at Bell Canada for customer experience. We are gutting out the whole approach of how we do customer experience. We've been doing it for 3 years now. And I'm not sure if any of you have read the book by John Cotter, Leading Change, it's called.
I'm sorry, Leading Change?
Yes, Leading Change.
Thank you.
It had like 8 steps in it, and it speaks about the last one, which is bolting down the culture, in your organization. So I have to say, the success of the program that we have is because we did actually implement what we call productivity councils, where presidents sit on it, review business cases, approve business cases, and KPIs at the beginning and at the end to guarantee that we can measure every change we're making. And the measurement comes through, of course, financial cost reductions or others, but also through satisfaction from our customers. We implemented surveys. Every time you touch us in any way, point of view, we send you an SMS, we send you elements, and we actually compensate our agents, our managers, our VPs based on those surveys. Surveys, customer surveys, and of course the results. But I gotta tell you, the toughest element in changing is that last step. It's the 8th step. We changed management. We wiped out our whole structure in customer experience. We brought in brand new SVP, brand new VPs, brand new structure, everything. We changed the people. We changed IT. It's funny that Alice mentioned that. We changed the whole approach of how IT actually does it. But I can tell you, we're right now doing a pilot of a simple, guided process of how you do price plan changes, which our agents have to remember thousands of codes to actually service our customers. We made it so English-based, simple for them to do it, and yet they go back and use the old version all the time. So you have to go and shut it off. Like, you have to go in there and say, don't touch it, do not, because I'm not getting the benefit out of it. And that's the toughest step so far. Like, everything else we've done worked very well, but that agent, just taking them off what they were doing and putting them on a new thing, that transformational element is so important, and it's tough to do. And that I can tell you, with all the elements that we've put in, that's the one that we're having the hardest time with. But compensation, of course, really works because everyone else gets directed because it's impacting their bottom line too.
Get their wallets and their hearts and minds will follow, right? Okay. We have, I think we had a comment back here in the corner, yes? No? Okay. Recognizing that we're running a little bit behind, not terribly, but we want to use a little bit of an opportunity to sort of catch ourselves back up so that we'll get back on plan here. I want to ask each of you, 30 seconds, summarize the single greatest opportunity you see that operators can pull out of a transformational effort. Justin, can I put you on the hot seat first, please?
Goodness, it's a hard one. I think overall, I mean, the key thing, I think any transformational project has got to be it's got to be cost that's got to come out of this. I mean, I know people look at, there's 3 things that people look at in terms of transformation projects. One, which is being forced to do it by regulation. Second one, what revenues can you additionally add to it? But cost is one which I think is the industry is going to have to address in a big way. The cost of providing services, and we're looking at some of these new ones, certainly M2M and so on and so forth, needs to be far, far lower. And the ability to do that in a timely way, I think, is going to be very important, particularly from a CFO's perspective. That's the one thing he'll look at. The increased revenues are going to be increasingly harder to lay our hands on as we develop markets. I think that's going to be a tougher ask. But certainly from a cost perspective, I think that's one way we can still go a long, long way.
It's a big cost takeout opportunity. Yep. Okay, Kathy, how about you? Where's the big opportunity?
I think from a customer service perspective, it's driving out the number of touch points. So reducing touch points, which does drive cost, right? But reducing the number of different people who have to touch a process so that we can drive not only costs out of the business, but time out of the business, which will only serve our customers better.
Good one, thank you. All right, driving out touch points.
No doubt.
Matthew.
No doubt cost. Efficiency in the operations is a big opportunity as well, because when you go through transformation, you have to look at the way your business is operating, look at the processes end to end, The other thing is being more customer-centric. So as a result of those processes being reviewed, becoming more efficient, more cost-effective, it's not only about the cost reduction of the actual OPEX and the CAPEX with respect to your systems and your platforms, but you've got cost reduction across the entire organization, and you've got opportunities to be more customer-centric because you can redesign everything, think of customer centricity, and you will transform your business.
Think about it through that customer's point of view. Look at it through their eyes, right? Okay, and Bernd.
Yeah, I tend to lift that actually up one level, and I would say that, yes, for the cost reduction in the transformation, you have to look at the cost reduction indeed across the operator. So that could, in fact, mean that you actively invest in IT and spend some more money because on other aspects you can save that tenfold. The other aspect, I think, is that we should far more use a transformation, a systems transformation, as a means to a business transformation, because too many times I've seen a transformation taking place without a very clear idea on where you want to go strategically.
Yes.
Yeah, and things like cross-channel integration, so 360 customer experience and the likes, so the big transformation challenges we have today are excellent to really clean up the business on a strategic level as well and align business and IT strategically and operationally, and also down to the operational models.
So based on what our panelists have shared with us this morning, we're going to look at the business, across the business, and through the eyes of the customer, reduce the complexity in the way we serve that customer, and arguably even reduce the complexity and perhaps even the number of our offers would be the one I would add also to the. We have to. We're going to have to. To Justin's point, we have to worry about cost takeout because that provides the fuel for us to consider future transformational opportunities. So I thank you for your time and attention, and won't you join me in please thanking our panelists this morning.